it's almost like I have a hard time saying, Chris, you're wrong. Like it immediately forces me to stay with you.
Right.
So what I didn't want to do in this book was leap over this one thing which could change. Like forget all the things in the book. Just when you're arguing, instead of like going to other sides of the room, go to the partner and just hold their hand and say, hey, what's going on?
So Andy, this chapter is about touch.
Yes, it is.
Wait,
It is.
a really touchy subject.
Now, how does it feel when I touch you like that?
Really uncomfortable. So tell me, how do you approach this? Because it is challenging. There's a lot of challenges with this.
Yeah.
People have that space that they don't want to be breached.
Yes.
So how do you approach this to make it useful for connection?
Well, I think that like when people begin learning about connection and they start to study, then they think, oh, we can talk this out. And then oftentimes the discussions we talked about before, like I'm right, you're wrong, I'm trying to convince you of something that you don't want to be convinced of, like that energy can only exist when I stay in disconnection to you. So if I like take your hand and say, Chris, how are you doing? How are you doing? Like it's almost like I have a hard time saying, Chris, you're wrong. Like it immediately forces me to stay with you.
Right.
So what I didn't want to do in this book was leap over this one thing which could change. Like forget all the things in the book. Just when you're arguing, instead of like going to other sides of the room, go to the partner and just hold their hand and say, hey, what's going on? And you'll probably solve, everything you might have thought you wanted to win. As they say, by winning you lose, right? There's no winner if that's the intention. So holding forces you to see the humanity in that person. It's harder to project onto that person they're bad when you hold that person's hand.
But obviously, you have to be careful who you pick to do this.
Of course.
Right. I mean, I've been in sales discussions where I'm the client and there's a sales guy there, and they're doing something. They put their hand on my shoulder, and I'm like, "What are you putting your hand on my shoulder? Like this is
Yeah.
That actually created a distance between us.
Sure.
Where their intention was to create a connection, it was creating a distance. Differently than my football coach, when I come back from just doing a good play, he'd take the clipboard and hit me on the butt.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, well, that's kind of weird, like,
Yeah.
but over time it's like, okay, that's a way of something in football. I still don't get it, but that also may have to do with personal space.
Yeah.
Which everybody has difference. And then there's cultural differences in
Yeah.
that. How do you select what you're going to do to make sure it's going to cause connection, not only for you, but for the other person?
Yeah.
And not a disconnect or a separation?
Yeah, well, if a salesperson came and touched me and I felt any sense that they were trying to pretend like we had a better relationship than we did, it would be a big turnoff. So I'm not saying touch people. I'm saying when it's not going well in an interaction and you sense that the things you're trying aren't working, then the thing you could do is go to the person, usually a partner in this case, and just say, hold their hand. And of course, the context of a relationship allows that to happen. It may not be easy, they might not, but you just taking their hand and like looking at them, like let them see you. Let them really see you. Let them see your suffering and you're trying and failing maybe and trying to communicate something, but let them see you. So that can change the dynamic. If you're in a business environment, as we both know, like going around touching people will get you fired. Okay. So I'm not suggesting at all, let's go into your business and just start touching people. No, by no means. Or even in a group setting, imposing that as an exercise, no, not today. Even eye gazing, which is something that a lot of people do. It's very intense. It creates a deep connection, but in my experience, if the context isn't something that people have come to, like if I haven't come to a training for connection, then imposing eye gazing can be so confrontational that it's not appropriate.
Right. Yeah, we talked about it earlier because I live in France. In French people, they don't hold eye contact because it's like you're reaching into their soul, and it's culturally inappropriate, just that. And so, but they also feel more that in Italians have a smaller social space. So it's like moving into somebody's space and touching them in Italy. Yeah. You see these guys talking and they're each touching each other, and it's like no big deal. And you're like, what in the world? It's a culturally appropriate thing. So some cultures and some people have bigger, like say, space around them, and others have smaller space. And the stare thing is for Americans is one thing, and for French and Japanese is another thing. So it seems like it's really important to have a clear understanding of that. And I've also noticed people with higher status can do it to people with lower status with a positive meaning, but straight when you're at the same level of status, it's a bit different.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, for example, I watch the Marvel movies, and you got Thor, he's really big and strong, and then he like hits a person on the shoulder, and it's like, well, if Thor would tap me on the shoulder, pat me on the shoulder, I'd be like, it's Thor tapping me on the shoulder, right? But also, with a CEO of a company, or as a Boy Scout leader with Boy Scouts, a football coach with football players, there's a status disconnect, which maybe allows that easier than if the status is more close together. Yeah.
I mean, I had, sorry to interrupt you, but I had a situation when I was, 10 years back, the director of marketing, and there was this woman who I was really good friends with. Her husband and I, we'd go on ski trips on the weekends, really close. And she did great work, and I would like touch her on the shoulder, say, thank you, I'm so grateful for what you're doing. And then at some point she said, Andy, please don't touch me. And it was so funny. It was a connecting to this kind of feeling. There was nothing in my brain in any way sexual in it. It was like how I would touch anyone in my life that I felt close to. And so, that was like, oh, okay, I have to respect that discomfort, right? And then obviously now we're far more aware of that in the workplace. But
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing is workplace is not probably the place to practice this, particularly in America.
No, of course not.
And especially when it's cross-gender.
Yeah.
So where would you suggest somebody test this with? Are you really talking about let's do this with a partner in order to build connection?
Yes. This is on these, some of the exercises that you've seen through the book, some are more related to some more business type of interactions, and some are related to more interpersonal. And this is when I'm in an interpersonal interaction, someone that I'm a partner with, a friend, a family, if there's argument or frustration, then there's the opportunity to say, listen, can you just hold my hand and see me as we talk right now, and then realize, and that has the potential to change the entire dynamic. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to project on someone when you feel their humanity.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.